All right, everybody. Our next speaker is my mentor and friend, and also the person who inspired me to create BLYNK. When I first graduated from UNC just 2 years ago, I was being offered a position at Goldman Sachs. And I remember I got on the phone with him and I said, and he said to me, he said, Alfred, I'm so proud of you. I want you to know this is just the beginning. And he said to me, when you make it to the top, I want you to remember to reach back and pull forward. I remember I got off the phone with him. And when I hung up, I just stood there thinking, why wait? Why can't I do that right now? Why can't I help our people get access to high paying jobs right now? I texted him the idea for BLYNK the very next day. I'm happy to welcome to the stage Bernard Bell. He's the executive director of the UNC Shuford program in entrepreneurship. He grew the program from 200 to 600 students and into the number 4 ranked program in the country. Before joining UNC, he was even bigger. He was the top marketing executive in the country. He built TV stations that you may know, such as HGTV, Discovery Channel, Food Network, and TV One. They just don't make them like Bernard. Please join me in welcoming to the stage Bernard Bell.
Wow, Alfred, what a introduction on a wet Friday here in New York City. I want to apologize to the folks out there. I landed at 7:30 this morning. I've been in a taxi for the last 3 hours trying to get to the house here in Manhattan. What it's made me realize is that one of my adages is it's not what happens to us, it's how we respond to it. And coming out of the television business, I have learned that the show must go on. And so that's what we're going to try to do this morning. Um, Three things I wanted to talk about. Alfred asked me to talk a little bit about networking, which I know a lot about, and I know most of it about because of the opportunities in life that I didn't get. And so, what I'd like to spend a few minutes talking about is the opportunities that in life that I didn't get, and how to respond to failure when you don't actually know when the failure will end. I think it's interesting. I oftentimes listen to my bio, and I think about the people who hear it, and you hear all the peaks. But what I'd like to spend a little time today is talking about the valley moments that I've experienced, because I believe it is the valleys that make us, it's not the successes. And my life has been a series of connected valleys where on the surface it looked like it was connected peaks. Hold on. It reminds me that it's not what happens to us in life, it's how we respond to it. But I want to talk a little bit about the valleys, because I have this theory that it's the valley moments that make us, but most of us think it's the peaks. And I have this philosophy, I call it the peak to peak model, the PEEK to PEAK. But to go from one peak to the other peak, typically you have to go through the valley. And so when I was mentioning before, when I have looked at my life, and I went to Chapel Hill, went to work for IBM as a sales guy, I went to work for Discovery Channel, went to HGTV, moved out to Silicon Valley, started TV One. What most people don't hear is in between each one of those peaks were major valley moments where I was out of work, where I had some health challenges, where I had to look at my life and I looked at other people and I thought, well, God, what's wrong with me? I mean, I'm working hard. I've done all the right things. And y'all, ladies and gentlemen, what I've realized in life is that each one of our journeys is like a fingerprint, and everyone's fingerprint is unique to them. And I used to look around and I looked at other
Hey,
people's
Bernard, tilt the
journeys.
iPad up just a little bit. I want to see your
Okay.
face, man.
Can you see me?
Yeah, we
Tell
need to see
me.
your handsome face on the
Okay,
screen.
because I can see it on my screen. I can see me,
Perfect. No,
but
that's
can
perfect. We can see you now. We can
okay,
see
okay.
you. And you can back
Because a
up a
lot
little bit. You can back up a little bit.
okay,
Mhm.
okay.
You good?
Um,
Mhm.
but what I realized was the valleys in between each one of the peaks were those opportunities for growth. They were opportunities to change. They were opportunities to really look at myself and say, okay, Bernard, who are you when nobody's watching? And because for most of my life, I suffered from low self esteem. But if you saw me out in the crowd, I was the guy that was patting everybody on the back, and I'm the guy that was making everybody feel good. And what I've come away from that experience is typically the loudest person in the room is the most insecure. And that was me. And so, ladies and gentlemen, what I had to do was really look in the mirror and take some time to ask myself, Bernard, who are you when nobody's watching? How do you feel about yourself when you're by yourself? How do you motivate yourself when no one's there to push you? And I came away with three adages. The first one was rich people shout, wealthy people whisper. And so I looked around and I thought, well, why do I need external validation from everybody? I need them to know what I do. I need to know how great I am, all this stuff. And what I realized was that I had not introduced my inside self to my other inside self. And so I did a lot of the hard work to determine who I was when nobody was watching. And what I realized was when those of us are trying to be the man, the man, the man, the man, it's kind of rich people shout. But wealthy people don't need to let everybody know what they have. And so as I began to feel better about myself as an individual, I began to need less external validation from people that I'd never met. The second adage that I learned was I had to come up with that phrase that allowed me to validate myself and push myself when I had to challenge myself. And I found this quote that goes like this: far better it is to dare mighty things, to win glorious triumphs, even though checkered with failure, than to take rank with those poor mighty souls who neither suffer much nor enjoy much, because they live in that great twilight that knows neither victory nor defeat. And so when I would challenge myself to do things, I would challenge myself maybe to pick up the phone to call somebody that I was afraid to call. I challenged myself to have to go out and raise money, and then I have to call someone to ask them for money for some startups that I have. I challenged myself to meet a senior executive that I thought might allow me to network. And when I did not prove to myself that I could do it, I would fall back on that adage: far better it is to dare mighty things, to win glorious triumphs, even though checkered with failure, than to take rank with those poor mighty souls who neither suffer much nor enjoy much, because they live in the great twilight that knows neither victory nor defeat. And I like to win. And so the way I would challenge myself is I'd look at the phone, it felt like 100 pounds, and I'd recite that quote over and over. And it got me over to the finish line. The third adage that I have taken as part of my own life process is people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And the reason I started with that one, as smart as I was never the smartest bulb on the tree. And I always thought that the brilliant people were like the math students or the engineering students. And so in my mind, being smart was linear. You know, you could do 2450 times 3670, and that smart person would know the answer just like that, no calculator. And that was not me. And again, I wasn't a dummy, but I wasn't like the smartest guy in the room. And so what I had to do was change the narrative of what success looked like. And so I changed it to people don't care how much you know, i.e., they don't care how smart you are unless they know how much you care. And the one thing that I had, ladies and gentlemen, was a caring spirit. And I knew that no matter what, I was that guy that was going to lead from behind. As I started to feel better about myself, I didn't need to be out front, but I understood how to influence from the back. And influencing from the back meant that I worked alongside with the rest of the team to coach, guide, and direct those that may not be the strongest, because that was the guy that I had been. And so what I've learned is all of these adages that have helped me get from point A to point B, the irony is that I learned them when life wasn't going great. You know, like I said, I've been out of work. I've lost jobs. I've had money. I've lost money. I've been on a private jet. I've had just enough money in my checking account just to go out and buy a tomato. I've lived in Harlem. I've lived on a farm. My grandfather was a tobacco farmer. And so I feel like I've brought all of these intersections of life to my own life. And what I did, ladies and gentlemen, was I took my ego and I put it in my back pocket. Sometimes it was forced to be in my back pocket. But what I learned was no one wants to know that guy who lets you know how smart he is or how smart she is, because that individual makes me feel like I'm not smart. And so as I wrap, I know we're getting close to 11:30. My goal in life now is to use my time, my talents, and my treasures to lift people up. And what I've decided is I try to take myself out of the way, and I try to make sure that the lessons that I've learned and the mistakes that I've made and some of the failures that I've had, have been many, um, I have gotten comfortable enough with myself to be comfortable in sharing them. And ladies and gentlemen, I have this belief that it's all about the power of vulnerability. And so if I can stand up in front of you and let you know with all the accolades that you see on paper, I'm not perfect. And I've made more mistakes than anybody probably on this webinar, which is why I trust my judgment. Because I believe it is those mistakes, those valley moments that get us from point A to point B. And as Alfred just put up, true confidence is vulnerability. And I am pleased to say, ladies and gentlemen, that I have true confidence, that I love who I am, and that my mission in life is to really uplift and inspire others so that their journey might be just a little lighter, but their successes will be exponentially more than mine. And so I'm hoping that some of the thoughts that I've shared have touched some of you all's spirit. And with that, Alfred, I will turn it back over to you.
Yeah, amazing, amazing stuff, Bernard. And I want to tell the audience, this was my mentor the entire time I was at UNC, and it's interesting. This session was about, advice on networking. The one thing I would tell everyone is that topic of vulnerability. There's a reason why Bernard, he's the best at building relationships that I've seen. He has a trail of people that all say, they love him because he's able to be genuine and he's able to be transparent. And moments like these, you know what I mean? I've heard the stories of the most, as the story he said, peaks and valleys. I've heard the stories of all the valleys in his life, and it's made him appreciate the peaks even more. So if you take anything from this session, know that vulnerability is true confidence, and it's the real way to build relationships is to be vulnerable. So I hope you guys gained a lot from this, and we'll be moving shortly to the other session in a second. If anyone has questions, you can put it into the chat, and we could probably do at least one question before we jump. But
And Alfred, sorry I didn't get on to the networking piece because that is my strong suit, but we'll have other opportunities to do that.
No, I believe everything you said in some way related to networking. I mean, the nature of our relationship, man, has been because of everything you just said. That story when you told it about peaks and valleys to my peers, man, it brought tears to people because we've all been through the low times, but we live in an Instagram and a social media reality now, and people do not showcase the vulnerability. So, Bernard, man, I appreciate about you, man.
Well, I believe if you pull the covers back for most of us, it's not necessarily pretty under there. And anyone who's trying to paint a beautiful Picasso picture, it's typically very different. It's very different.
Exactly. Well, I guess we'll end it there.
All right. And again, my
Thank you,
apologies,
Bernard.
y'all, for the logistical issues, Alfred. You know that's not how I do, man.
I know you 5-star with it, so it's God's will. This was how it was meant to be. It was perfect.
Thank you so much. And everybody, y'all enjoy the rest of the conference. And I'll sign back in once I get upstairs
All right.
to the house. All right. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.
Thank you.